Broadcasting across the country and around the world from Sin City in Las Vegas, Nevada, welcome to 50 Shades of Great. You just joined a journey celebrating the adventures, antics, and occasional absurdities of men navigating the wild ride into middle age. Your hosts, Radio Moose and PowerSerg, together embrace the humor, wisdom, and satisfaction of living life to its fullest, no matter what the calendar says. From reliving our glory days to discovering new passions, join us as we prove that age is truly just a number and the best adventures, they're yet to come. So grab a seat, pour yourself a drink, and let's dive into laughter, camaraderie, and unapologetic fun as we dare to live on 50 Shades of Great. Broadcasting from Las Vegas, Nevada, you're back to 50 Shades of Great. Dare to live, teaching men that it's okay, and we're going to do it. We're going to take life by the horns. We're not retiring. We're just being born. I am Moose. I am your host. I'm joined today with my co-host and executive producer, PowerSerg. How you doing, Power?
Excellent.
I noticed that, when we did a pilot a ways back, he had an IV brought into the room. No surprises today, right?
I feel great. The birds are singing. The sun is shining. This is awesome.
Well, you know what?
No surprises today.
Since we did that show, though, I've actually done that twice now. I've done the IV, and I tell you what, man, when you start pushing towards 50, you need a little help. You need a little pick me up. And not that I'm advocating going out and getting sloshed or anything like that, obviously, because sobriety is the best decision. But for those nights when I choose to let loose, I have a moose method of recovery, and that's a B4 IV.
B12.
B12, 4, 6, 9, I don't know, whatever the hell's in it. But
this is like, look at our episode last week, right, where we had Mike Sartain, right, and talked about TRT and hormones. We're actually going to, so the folks from Ageless Men, we're going to actually bring them on and to talk about TRT replacement. And I think that they're going to be one of our sponsors. And by the way, exciting news. Men of Action are going to be our new sponsors.
Yes.
Right. So if you're interested in what you heard last week and Mike Sartain talking about the Men of Actions, the coaching program, it's a program for men, how to build better social circles and how to surround themselves with better quality men and higher caliber men and building confidence. It's a men's coaching program. If you're interested in that, please go on our website. Follow the link there to Men of Action.
50shadesofgreat.com. And speaking of, we talked about some of the things that get you back into feeling good about yourself and realizing it's okay and getting that pass, if you will, kind of that hall pass to go out and live your life and not be confined with the constraints that's placed on I guess we'll call it middle-aged men as we go through this journey. And so it brought up an interesting thing when we were talking to Sartain last week, and that is hobbies. Mm-hmm. One of the important things that we've always think about, we all have passions. We have passions for what we want to do. We have passions for what makes us happy. And going through like mental illness issues, you have to
Is dating a hobby, or am I allowed to say that?
Well, I don't know. In your case, I guess so. But for me, it's a chore.
It's a competitive sport.
Yeah, okay.
It's not a hobby. It's a sport.
Like tennis.
Just kidding.
Back forth. Okay.
Humor, satire.
But, obtaining these hobbies is the first way of really dealing with self-help. And when you have a hobby and you have a passion and you can chase it and set those goals, that's really where you get that self-satisfaction that it takes to not kind of spiral down into the depths of I'm trapped, I can't get out, this isn't what I want to do. Is we've got to be happy. For other people to be happy, we have to be happy. And I know you said in the pilot show, sometimes we don't give ourselves goddamn permission to be happy. Mm-hmm. We are constantly providing, we're constantly dancing, we're constantly living this scripted life of what a man at 50 is supposed to do, and it doesn't involve our happiness. And our happiness, a lot of times, is always on the outside, it's not internal. And so we've got to recognize that. So what we wanted to bring for you today is a show of getting into doing our passions, to jumping into taking our hobbies and making those a therapeutic part of life.
And more than that, discovering new hobbies, right? So for a long time, right? So different stages in life, right? And in different stages of life where whether it's, when we're building our lives, right? We do different things. We focus on different things. We don't have as much available time. So now as we hitting 50, right? As we're more secure in our careers, some of us are looking toward retirement, right? What are some of the new hobbies and how do you go about? If you've always wanted to do X, like try something. If you always wanted to surf because you like the idea of being on the water with the sun shining and being on a surfboard, right? If you wanted to try fishing, right? How do you start a new hobby at 50?
Right.
Right. And that's important because sometimes people don't know where to start, how to learn, right? If you want to, like you keep talking about golf, right? Which to me is like torture.
Well, I'm going to talk about golf here in a little bit.
I'd rather get waterboarded than having to play a golf game, right? Well, but for you, that's important.
And I'm going to get into why. Right. In a few minutes, I'm going to get into why golf and how that's been therapeutic for me on a lot of golf has actually helped my relationship, believe it or not. And now she, who also hated golf, is golfing.
I'm going with nut, but no,
golfing.
I'm kidding.
So anyhow, all that aside, we're talking about hobbies and keeping ourselves happy and healthy. And so I have a guest that I'm bringing on today, David Curfiss, who really, he grabs that by the horns, and he took a military career, security military career, very active in helping people with mental health issues, PTSD. He's taken to become an author. So his dream in life was to be an author and actually published his first book. And recently, he's started a podcast in the last year or two and just crossed the 1,000 viewer mark. So up and coming, letting things happen, but grabbing life for what it's worth and realizing I'm not giving up on this life. I'm going to find what keeps me going. David Curfiss, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it, man. This is a good time.
Well, so pretty impressive, David. So veteran, author, podcaster, you're our kind of guy.
Yeah, and documentaire, actually. I'm in the process of filming a mental health and music documentary to kind of go along the side of my podcast. It's a little more focused on the community aspect in heavy metal, more so than the mental health aspect like my podcast. But I've always been a creative person, and I just decided back when I met Bobby that I was tired of being a servant and I wanted to do things I enjoyed for a living. So I did.
So a quick question. How old are you?
I am about to be 44.
44. So you're looking forward towards you.
Yeah, you got 50. An early jump on it because
I did, man. It didn't feel like I got an early jump. I felt like I was late to the game because I have been in the service of this country since I was 17. And I've got 26 years of service. Thank you. It's been quite the experience, ups and downs, like everything in life. So I felt like I had like a late grab on it, but reality was I got it right when I was supposed to. It was my prime time, and I feel like it couldn't have gone any better when it did. I'm not upset with how any of it went. I did what I wanted to do, the way I wanted to do it, and I'm very proud of that. So, and like you were saying earlier, it's sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to be happy. I gave myself permission to do the things I love, and it has made me happy and very happy.
So is the music? Where's the hobbies? Like what's changed? So is the music always been a part of your life, or is this something new?
So music has always been a part of my life. I lost track of it for a bunch of years there, in my previous marriage. And then, to make a long story short, my now wife knew I liked music and surprised me for my birthday. I think it was our first birthday together, with tickets to System of a Down. And she opened up Pandora's box with that. Yeah. Ever since that day forward, I started going back to concerts and I got back into music, and I just rediscovered my love for music. And as the years progressed, I just got more and more and more involved in it, to the point that I realized like music has kind of always been a form of therapy for me and a significant passion in my life. I'm not musically inclined. I can't create music, but I absolutely love listening to it and respect what musicians have done. And I wanted to bring that to people. I wanted people to see music and how beneficial it can be. So I turned my love for music into a hobby by creating a podcast in which I interview musicians. I get to basically be a fanboy and talk to guys who inspire the hell out of me and get personal. And it's really cool because I'm showing people that music has another side. Like, we're all human, but at the same time, you get to see that therapeutic side of the music itself.
You do get to, and it's interesting you bring that up because music's a good big passion of mine. And one of the reasons I really wanted to bring you on the show, David, was because you're one of my inspirations. About when we met,
Thank you.
I was a bounty hunter for Aladdin bail bonds in San Diego, and we were out in the field somewhere. I don't recall the exact scenario, but David and I run into each other. So he starts asking like, "Well, how did you get into bounty hunting, and how'd you end up there?" And well, I was a cop. I got hurt, lost my passion, and stuff like that. And he goes, "I'm kind of in this fucking rut too." And, my life is going nowhere and I'm not happy with what I'm doing and I'm in a mundane job. And we had similar backgrounds. I mean, he had the military background. I had the law enforcement background. But he goes, "You know what, dude? I'm done with this shit. I'm moving on. I'm going to." And so I'm asking him his passions. And he talks about writing the book and the music and how you wanted to jump into the music. And for me, music's always been like, I have ADHD, right? I saw a squirrel. I mean, that
Squirrel.
That really happens. But for me, my whole life, music's always been, I have to have music in the background. Remember that movie from the 80s, like Iron Eagle, where he's fighting fighting against Libya, and then they have him go in to shoot the missiles and he can't do shit. And he goes, "I'm doing it my way, chappie." And then he puts the music on and then goes and blows the shit out of the oil field or whatever it was. So that's me. And I've realized early on that someone taught me years and years and years ago that music is important for two reasons. When you're happy, you like the melody and the sound. And when you're sad and down, you listen to the words. And I've never found that to be more true than now. And David, when I've seen your journey in the music and I've watched what you do, like I did the same thing in radio. When I the first time I wanted to go on this journey I was about 15 years premature. But I went and met people I dreamt about meeting. Like, I didn't even give a shit that was my job because it wasn't a job to me anymore. It was my passion. It was therapeutic. It was how I could be okay with everything. And then I continued to kind of follow that route once recently, going through my fourth divorce, dealing with, two kids living in different places. Yeah.
You just two marriages, or I've got two under
marriages. One in the past and one at the current that I've been, I want to say 15 years now married.
Yeah,
wow.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
But that's my point, is that you're happy. You're happy, you're taking care of yourself, and that relationship, as long as it stays mutually beneficial and doesn't become one-sided, that's where our spouses need to learn that that's what we need to be therapeutic. And in the end, we'll all do better. But going back to the music part is, I recognized how so many traumatic things in my life I got through with music. And I can tell you the song, where I was sitting.
Yes.
I can tell you the smell, the type of day that it was, where the song brought me back to reality and really took me from dark places to where I was. And then watching David, taking the idea of music, I actually became I started to listen to some heavy metal. And I actually started to appreciate it. And it's interesting. Once you follow your passion, like I never understood what they call dirty lyrics, like the guttural, during the chorus. There's so much passion and so much talent in what they're doing. And the expression, when you really get into it, that music calms me down. And I know, David, you can understand that. My new favorite band is I Prevail. And I'm going to a meet and greet with I Prevail and who are they? Hailstorm. And I went to Godsmack. I went to, but what it does is that it gives me that reset button. I was telling Serge before one of the other shows that I have on my wall it's a guitar picture, and it just says "buy the tickets." Right? Just go out there and do it. Grab it by the horns. And as I watch you evolve, then he wrote his book, and just based on the conversation and the energy that we shared. He actually sent the book to me before he published it saying, "Hey, you're one of 10 people that I just, will you take a look at this?" And I read it. And yeah, I have a master's degree, but I hate reading. I loved it. And the reason I loved it is because I knew the passion and I knew the therapy that you used
what's the
going
book
into?
what's the book
Talk a little
about?
bit about the book for a second, because
What's
I
the
think
book
that
about?
people should read the book.
I
Very
appreciate
deep.
that. So the book is called 1,000 Miles to Nowhere. It started out as a short story, and ultimately I decided that the story could be so much more. It was dedicated to a friend of mine who was a Navy SEAL that was killed in training, Matt Leathers. And I took a lot of my grief from both Matt and his team, that everyone that was killed over the years, and I threw it into that book. And while I was writing that book, I actually lost several more friends. Several more people passed away, killed in action, other causes, suicides, while that book was being written and eventually published. And that book it reads like somebody, like you can tell that I was struggling mentally while writing it. Like I actually had somebody on Twitter back when I still fucking had a Twitter account that asked me, "Are you okay?" Because they read my book.
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I'm not, but thank you."
Right.
But that book was the biggest therapy I have, like the most therapeutic thing I've ever done. You know, I turned something I absolutely love, because I love reading and I love telling stories, and I have this passion for the apocalypse. I don't know if it's just because I think society is doomed to fail, but I love the apocalypse. I love what it, like when I picture it, like what it does to me internally. Like I absolutely love it.
So is it a fiction book or a nonfiction book? So is it fiction or not? Is the book fiction or nonfiction?
Oh, 100%. It's fiction. It's called, it's a post-apocalyptic horror.
Oh, gotcha.
So one of the things about my writing is I infuse my life into it.
Right.
Although it is a fiction story, a lot of what is in it is true and has happened to me. And a lot of the people in it are based around real people in my lives. I've talked to them. They know that they're a character in my book. Their names have changed, or it's a character thing. Like I've dedicated these people to my book. And
You want me
to me, it's the ultimate expression of self-love.
Yeah. You want me to blow your mind?
Sure.
Everything that every author has ever written has been about them. Right?
Oh yeah. 100%.
Oftentimes we think that, oh, well, I want to write, and I don't want to write about myself, because like how much of a narcissist am I, right? If you're writing something about yourself, either directly or indirectly, like that feels pretty narcissistic. But the reality is, every author, or at least that's what they say, is that everything you write is about yourself. But in reality, I don't think it might be about yourself, but it's actually about the way you see yourself. So what you find is, find is that when I write, and writing was actually something that was a hobby of mine that I've turned into a profession. And for me, it's film and television, right? For you, it's actual books. But writing for me is that I write about myself in the way that I want to be, and that might not be, right? So you can look at Tolkien or anyone else, and you'll notice that there's going to be elements of what they think of themselves, but the characters are much more heroic. So the protagonists of my stories are a lot more heroic than I am, but they're based on myself. Right. And so it's great that you were able to do that. Did you actually, how did you get started? So now you're looking and you say, hey, I want to write. This has sort of always been my passion. So how did you get started in writing a book? Did you take a class? Did you read some books on writing?
No, I just sat down and started writing.
Just fucking grabbed a pen and went.
I grabbed my typewriter, my computer, and started getting after
yourself.
it. Well, I call my computer the typewriter.
Okay.
No, I did. I sat down and I said, I'm doing this, and I wrote it. I actually I did a free write for the entire book for the first draft. It was completely just stream of consciousness, and then I completely deleted the entire first draft and rewrote it with a little bit more structure. And then I edited it probably 7-8 times before I even sent it to my editor, in which I did another 7 to 9 full blown edits to it. Ultimately, I spent 4 years writing that book before I published it. Looking back, There was a lot of downtime because of what I was doing at the time for work. It was taking up my life, and I was a parent. I had a newborn. What was my son? Yeah, I had a newborn. So it was time consuming. I was waking up at 4 a.m, writing till 6, leaving for work, working 10, 12, 14-hour days, going home, being a dad, getting a little bit of sleep, doing it all again the next day. So I would take months off just to recover, and then I'd go back to writing again. And it took me quite a time. I mean, I haven't published a second novel yet, but I'm on my third full-length novel that I'm writing. And it just takes me a while because of the way I do things. Like, I have a life. I manage, I was managing a full-time job, and currently I'm just at home being a creative person and being a parent, getting a hold of myself mentally and just taking life by the horns or balls, whatever you prefer to say, because it was time, and I was tired of being a freaking slave to the world. I needed to take control of me. And the only way I could do that was to give myself the time I needed.
Well, I love this story because you have this passion. I do want to ask you a follow-up question, what you just said, but I love the passion of, I love to write and this is what I want to do. And you're like, you doubled down on that and you're published, and now you can get your book on Amazon. I mean, how cool was that? And how, like that feeling of accomplishment and status to actually see yourself when you open up Amazon and you type in 1,000 miles to nowhere. And the concept of the story is these people are down from San Diego, go up into like Denver, right? It was, I don't remember the geographical, and then go through all of these trials and tribulations. But I could feel your passion in writing that. And what sense of accomplishment at the end of the day, what did that do for you? So somebody who's watching right now who has like the passion, it says, I don't have the time, I don't have the abilities. I mean, what the investment versus the reward? Can you talk about that a little bit?
I broke down crying. I was so fucking proud of myself that I broke down and cried. And I've never really been proud of anything I've ever done. I have failed a lot in life, and I'm totally cool with that. Like, you don't get through life without failure. And I just kept failing and failing and failing until I ultimately realized, like, I was kind of going against the grain. Like, I was doing things I did not want to do, places I didn't belong, didn't fit in, wasn't accepted. And finally, I did something for me, and it felt so good and so gratifying.
Awesome.
And I was just proud, man. I cried, and I'm not a crier. Yeah. It felt unbelievably good. And what was better than seeing it on Amazon was going to Comic-Con and promoting it when I got invited to the
I didn't realize you were at
Comic-Con.
Comic-Con. Well, congratulations. Wow.
Thank you. And then my book signing at the Barnes & Noble, when Barnes & Noble reached out and asked me to come do a book signing, like, to me, that was more gratifying. Or when I got invited to my first podcast out of the country, like, that was cool. Like, somebody in another country knew of my book, and I had a little fan base, and it was like, wow, people really resonated with this book. When I started getting back reviews on the book, I was a little self-conscious. Here I am, this amateur writer, just kind of a knuckle dragger. And I go and write this novel, and it's full of my heart and emotion. And I start getting these reviews, and they're amazing. Like, one person said it was the best zombie story they have ever read. Not best zombie of the century or best zombie something, it was the best story ever. And that just warmed my heart. Like, wow, I did get another compliment. The same person said that there was a scene in the book that was the most horrific and vile scene they have ever read. I was like, sweet. Made me happy, man. Like, that was cool, and there were some bad reviews out there. People who don't understand PTSD. One person said they wanted to shoot my main character, and I was like, he wanted to shoot himself, save him the problem. Right. Like, some people just don't get it. And like anything, when you put yourself out there, like, just like this, there's going to be people who are going to poo-poo all over the podcast. it is what it is. You got to do things for yourself first before you do them for other people. If somebody else likes it, cool. And this is true for all creative persons, because I've had this conversation with Corey Taylor from Slipknot, Brandon from Bleeding Through. I've had it with Dave McClain from Machine Head, former of Machine Head, Sacred Right, and other artists, writers like Justin Cronin, who wrote the Passage trilogy. He had a TV show on Fox. Adam Neville, he's a UK writer, wrote The Ritual. These guys are well established in their industries, and they've all said the same thing. When you do something creative, it has to be for yourself first. Otherwise,
it's the airplane,
you're
right?
wasting your time.
No, and this is exactly what you were saying, right? So this is the old airplane comment, right? Is that you got to put the mask on yourself first and then take care of other people. And I think we forget that. We feel selfish.
That's a great analogy.
We feel selfish, right? We feel like, oh my God, I can't spend time on myself. I can't spend time writing, which is important to me. I can't spend time golfing, right, which is important to you. And then the wife or the kids are saying, well, why do you need to go golf, right? Because I have to put the mask on myself first. And for me, I don't know what my hobby is, dating, right? I have to spend time.
Right, okay.
Hobby, sport, whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
Playing poker, whatever it might be, right? We have to take care of ourselves first. So I totally get that. I absolutely understand what you're saying, and it's absolutely critical.
Yeah. What hurdles what were your, call to action delivery outcomes that you overcame? I mean, I know you said it was very emotional once you got through that and you were able to share that. Like, what were the specific hurdles that you were able, you don't have to get in the weeds, but were you able to deal with that other people could also focus on that? Hey, I'm writing this, and here's my goal to get through A, B, or C. Does that make sense?
I think I got it. When I think about overcoming things for writing, I think the biggest problem I had was dealing with imposter syndrome. And I deal with that every time I sit down to write. Like, I'm not good enough for this, or, nobody's going to want to read this, or I get back in my head about the negative side of things, because it is impactful. Like, I've accepted the fact that you can't put yourself out there without some type of negative feedback. It's just going to happen. But
someone's always going to hate you.
It still gets in my head.
Someone's always going to hate you, just like someone's going to love you.
Yeah, it's there's no way around it. It's impossible. There's 8 billion people on this planet. It's impossible. Like, somebody's going to dislike it. Like, it's just impossible to get around. So you have to I don't think you need to put it out of your mind, but you have to just be okay with that. And that can be kind of daunting at times. Like, it's a struggle. I'll sit down to write and I'm like, man, this sounds like crap. Like, I'm struggling on this one scene. Like, I've been writing my new novel, and I have rewritten it 3, maybe 4 times. I've gone from third person POV to first person POV, which is what I'm currently in. I've changed the entire dynamic of the book. I've changed the names of the characters. I've changed the settings. I've changed the plots. I've changed the plot points. And now I'm stuck in this scene that's combat oriented, and I don't like it because I feel like it's going to get overanalyzed and broken apart, even though I know my shit when it comes to combat tactics. And I just read it. And I'm like, do I really want to put this out there? And then I'll change it. And I'm like, nah, this isn't good enough. And I'll delete, 30 pages of a novel because I get in on myself. And the next morning I'm like, oh man, I was actually pretty damn good. Why did I get rid of that? I can't tell you how many times I've deleted pages upon pages of my book just to go, man, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Well, their techniques,
Control Z.
But
bring it back.
Well, their techniques. So I'm not a novelist, but I write screenplays and I teach screenwriting at a college. And there are techniques to specifically address those things. This isn't a writing episode, but there's techniques to specifically address that. Have you thought? Now, are you in a writers group by any chance?
No, I don't do very well with groups. Typical creative person, like, yes, I'm social, but I'm not the kind of guy that takes well to other people trying to tell me how to do things. After 26 years of service to this country, I'm kind of over people talking to me about how to do things. Like, this is my soapbox, leave me alone. So I'd rather just fumble way through it. I did go to,
and that's okay.
Yeah,
and that's okay. It's okay to
embrace your own weaknesses, know what they are, and work around them. You know, we all have them. I'm one of the first people to talk about my weaknesses before my positives. Like, when people ask me like, what's your strong suits, I'll actually give you my weak ones first. You know, like I feel like it needs to be addressed before I can address the positives, which kind of goes back to the whole, you got to do yourself first, you know, like you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. But yeah, no, was that what you were asking, or did I go off topic?
No. You said no, but you said you did take a class. What did you do? You said
I actually went back to college and got a degree in English literature, just to have a better understanding of storytelling. And then I went and started to work on my master's for creative writing. And that's when I realized that this is going to sound narcissistic as fuck, but I realized I had more skills than the people teaching me. And I was like, I'm not going to sit here and take notes from someone who clearly doesn't have the right answers for me. So I stopped going. It was a waste of my money. I didn't like it at all. And I did attend, I did try some writers groups previously. I just didn't like them. So I'd always drop out of them because I was like, these are just people talking about themselves and how they're so good at things. Like I don't need that. Like I didn't find one that worked for me. So
yeah, I mean, surround yourself with people who you look up to, right? Is a good example. Like, yeah, because you want to surround yourself with people who are better than you, right? So I always say that I like to surround myself with smart people and people who are smarter than I am, who disagree with me, right? Because that's how I grow. Yeah, that's how I grow, right? Without that, you don't grow. And so, but the fact that you went through that process, right? This is a later stage life thing that you wanted to do. It was something you want to do for yourself, and you went through it where initially you tried it out on your own, right? Maybe you read maybe you talked to some people, or maybe you just sat down and started writing, right? But eventually you took some classes, you tried some writing groups at least, right? And you got better, right? And you got better. So Bobby, tell us about your hobby, the golf game.
So the golf game I was kind of forced into. I advanced in my career in my day job, and I made vice president. And next thing I know is there's this like unspoken rule that you got to participate in these golf charity tournaments and stuff like that. Now, here's the thing. At the time, I'm 42, 43 years old. I've never picked up a golf club in my life. Okay. Except one time I got in a fight when I was like 16, and I think I grabbed a golf club. But other than that, never swung a golf club, never really got involved. I thought a game was boring. I thought it was stupid. You played
baseball?
I did not play baseball. I played soccer. But it was extremely boring to me. I thought it was stupid. And for all the things that, like David's talking about, the negativity. And this is where I start to realize is the things that we hate and the things that we're hateful towards usually is an insecurity with us, the one who's actually dishing out the negativity. And it's their way of coping. It's very unhealthy. It's very toxic. But who would have thought that I'd be where I am today? So trying to learn this, this game to be able to participate in these golf charity tournaments that our company would sponsor and go out with clients, because a lot of the high-end clients, they want to go golfing. My brother wasn't much of a golfer. He's a lawyer in a law firm, and he goes to make equity partner, and the senior partner's like, all right, well, your interview is going to be 3 hours on the course for 18. And he goes, because you learn so much about somebody on 18 holes of a golf course. And you hate because you suck. And once you get out there, but you realize and you open your mind.
No, I'm in shock. I'm in horror. I'm putting myself in his position thinking, oh my God.
Yeah, but you open your mind to the different elements of, man, you're out with somebody in that cart for 3-4 hours. Golf, Tiger Woods said everybody sucks at golf. It's true. Golf is a game against yourself. You can play in a PGA tournament or something like that, but what it does is it forces you to challenge yourself, to try and better your swing, to try and better. And it's truly, there is no opponent. In a true game of golf, there's no opponent. You're playing against a par. You're playing against par. And what's par? Par's average. right? Par is what the average person should get. So that's why you want to hit under par, and you want to improve your life to kind of get to that. And what it did was it drove home the fundamental things in life, teaching me that I'm only in competition with myself. I don't give a shit what the next guy thinks. I don't give a shit what happens with whether or not, I'm going to get hate mail when I was on the radio, and David, you can probably relate to this. When the first person gives you that horrible comment, dude, it hurts. When it's like, this idiot from California, he's now in Maryland, and go back to California, you liberal piece of shit, and like none of that was true. But, are making fun of the way that we pronounce the freeways. It's the 5, the 8. And back there's no the in front of. And so, I took a lot of hits for that. But actually, it made me stronger. And then you listen to, nowadays, people are starting to finally realize is that let the haters make you stronger and let the game just be about yourself. Let it be a game against yourself. The only way to improve, me competing against you doesn't improve me. Me competing against me improves me. And that's why I think it's important, like with what David's talking about, the book, and then we'll go into the podcast and the music, is you're competing when you're on that level where you go, look, the only competitor in this game is me, then you made it. You've made it because you've built that foundation that the only way to improve is to beat me. And the last time I did this. And so then I took that one step further, and, my girlfriend and I I forget where we were. I think we were down in Miami, and I'm thinking, you know what? I just want to go to the driving range, but it was god awful hot, 90 degrees and 100% humidity. And I'm just like, I ain't going out to the driving range. Right. So we went to this thing, Topgolf, this new phenomenon, Topgolf. And so it kind of takes the lifestyle. You can have a few beers or you can have some food, and then up to 6 people can be in this little bay. And it's like a driving range on crack, right? Because you can play games and it's virtual. You hit the ball, and these little Topgolf, you're welcome to sponsor this. I know they're not, but you hit this ball, it goes out, you can see where it landed, and then you have these points. And
but is it like a video game, or is it
No, it's an actual golf. So you're actually
golf.
sitting there, you swing, you hit the ball, and it goes out, and then you can play games against each other. But so what I did was I asked her, I go, hey, you want to go to Topgolf? And she goes, I've never picked up a golf club in my life. So we go out there, have a few beers, hitting some balls, just having a great time at both completely sucking at something. And it actually built our relationship. And I live in a golf community. I've been living in a golf community for 13 years, right? Never golfed. And so when we got back home to California, we went to the range, and she was using my clubs, and she starts killing it. She's like, it's not ridiculous, but 70 yards straight down the fairway or straight down the driving range. So what we did is we said, you know what? Let's go out and just give this a try. We both suck. And what it did is it put us on an equal playing field at the time, because there was no, I'm better than you. You're no better than me. We're playing a game that is truly against ourselves. And so, we booked the last tee time of the day because I didn't want to get in anyone's way, and I didn't want to look like a complete idiot, especially taking my lady out to, my first time really golfing with her. And dude, I just tell you what, it built our relationship strong. That one day built our relationship because we were out on the cart. We had a couple cocktails. We were getting exercise. We were getting sunshine. A lot of times now we stay in so much. There's a reason why you're supposed to get outside and have hobbies and get some sunshine and bring that to where there's reasons why there's certain suicide rates in Seattle are higher than San Diego or Miami or things like that. Is that there's environmental effects on us that we don't see. But going back to this golf game we only got to play the first 9, but I'm telling you, it was such a learning experience on patience, control, and you can see her and I have only been together for 2 years, but you saw a lot of, because after 3 down.
That's an incredibly long-term relationship. Are you kidding me? 2 years?
Well, for me, yeah.
That would be my 3rd longest relationship of my life.
But I should have done it a lot. I should have done it a lot earlier. But going back to it,
only been together for 2 years. It's like saying I've only are you kidding me?
The goal is lifetime, right? And I should have.
Whose goal?
When you said I do.
Sorry, guys.
But it goes back to, you know what? After 3 hours of going out there and competing with yourself, you see some, it's kind of like my brother's, senior partner, that you see things in people. You get to a point where it's like, we're all either come from military law enforcement. We've all done interrogation on somebody, right? You break them down. And there's a certain point where when someone starts out with a lie, what do they teach us in detective? We go for post-detective school, stuff like that, is, dude, a good lie in the beginning of a conversation is just as good as the truth. Because that lie, you can work it around and you can expose it and actually learn more things about that case than if someone did come out, with like a half truth. But after the course of time, you break things down. And I'm saying from a relationship standpoint, from a life standpoint, I learned a lot about her that day just by how she responded to being outdoors. She was actually better than she actually freaking her first time out pars on the sixth hole.
You heard it here first. If you want to have a successful relationship, take your lady golfing.
But what I'm saying is,
how many guys would benefit from that?
Yeah. And if all of a sudden these guys at 50 who actually do like golfing go out there and their lady is now, into it. I mean, that's a win-win. And
have you ever thought of writing a book with your wife?
She just reads them. She's an avid reader.
Well, that's therapeutic as well. And I know I've gone off on a tangent about the golf thing, but what I'm trying to say is that if you can find in the relationship and the way of coping with things, if you find that neutral ground where you're testing yourself, but you can also do it with others, like, David, get back to you here. So when you're doing the writing and you're having this challenge against, kind of like my golf game, you're having this challenge against yourself on this writer's block or this, not being happy with this scene or switching from, first POV to third person POV because maybe that'll make the scene, go through better. How does that benefit you in everyday life once you're able to get those hurdles by doing that in your hobby? How does it make you a better parent, a better spouse, a better person in general, or does it?
I think it puts a level of confidence in you. Like you overcome your weaknesses, so to speak. And I think that builds a level of self-confidence because one of the things about being a creative person is you got to be confident in what you're doing. And it can be very challenging at times. And I think that's it builds a level of confidence in you. I think that's the best thing to say.
And I think that hobbies, number one, they provide enjoyment, right? Things that we enjoy, right? And trying out new habits is important. But also, as men, we're wired to accomplish tasks, right?
We are, just like puppies.
We're very task-oriented. So I think hobbies help us, exactly what you said, help us accomplish tasks that are enjoyable tasks.
Right.
There are things that we want to do and we want to try, right? Like, and so I joke about dating being one of my hobbies, right? But I do date a lot and I go out a lot. But my hobby is scuba diving, right? It's something that I always wanted to try. I never got a chance to do it. And it literally, it's very cool. It gives me a purpose of being in water and around water, and it allows me to accomplish tasks where I'm learning new skills, right? And I'm doing deeper dives. I'm doing new dives. I'm seeing new things, right? And it is a level of
what did it take for you to pull that trigger, to buy that ticket, to actually jump in and recognize that that's a hobby that was going to be therapeutic for you?
It was just making that a priority and doing time, right? And traveling that now. And here's the thing, the way that you build your experience, the way you build hobbies is different, right? There's different ways to do it. There's the bougie way of doing it, right? For example, the bougie way of doing it is you have a new hobby that you want, you get private coaching, right? You find the coach. And by the way, getting private coaching is fine, right? The greatest golfer out there, to use a golf analogy, is Tiger Woods, right? The most accomplished golfer that arguably is Tiger Woods. And Tiger Woods works out with a golf pro 3 times a week. And by the way, you want to talk about writing? When I got my MFA, I have a Master of Fine Arts in screenwriting. When I got my MFA, I was like, I've accomplished everything I need to accomplish from education. I need to be teaching, right? MFA is a terminal degree, so I can teach. I need to be teaching writing instead of taking, and then I had somebody say exactly that to me. Tiger Woods works out with a golf pro 3 days a week. And that golf pro is not as accomplished as he is in golf.
Well, I did. I meant,
right? So in writing, find yourself a coach that you respect who can help you with a specific part of your game.
and I neglected to say, though, is the first thing that I did was reach out to someone who could help me figure it out. I just didn't go out and start hitting balls. Every golf course has a local pro. And so I go to this guy, Eric, he's a local pro at the Rancho California golf course. And, I buy the 5 package deal. And so I go out there and, my nickname was Happy, and I didn't realize he was calling me Happy freaking Gilmore, right?
Happy Gilmore.
And that's how I hit. But he was able to take my Happy Gilmore. And he says,
do you use a hockey puck?
well, I guess apparently it looked like I use a hockey puck.
Tap, 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 tap.
Yeah,
Just
tap
tap,
it in,
tap, 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 tap,
tap it in, Happy. Tap it in.
tap, 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 tap.
That's what she said.
Classic comedy.
But,
that is exactly what she said.
But, what he did was he helped me like tweak those certain things and I think that's really important. One of the outcomes that, one of the calls to action out of this episode that I think is really important to those who are watching is listening to how we're talking about the hobbies that we're getting involved in, but it's not wrong, and it's okay to ask somebody for help, to ask for direction and get some. But as men, we don't want to stop and ask for directions. We don't want to, we don't want to have to ask the.
I don't know. I'm self-confident enough to where I can ask for directions. I don't care. Like, I understand that it's not supposed to be manly.
It's society. I'm talking about your average guy. Listener, not PowerSerg.
And by the way, it's okay to ask for directions.
It is.
It's absolutely fine. So you can get private coaching. We talk about that. If you don't want to do that, like I did group. So when I started scuba diving, I went with sort of a more cost efficient way. Is I did a group class. I did Discover. My first scuba diving thing was Discover Scuba. Discover Scuba is where you don't do all the paperwork and you don't do all the schooling. You just literally get a little bit of instruction, and then with an instructor and a group, you then do 2 open water dives. It's not very expensive, and it allowed me to realize, do I even want to do this?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up too, because a lot of people feel like they're not being able to do their hobbies, or they're not being able to really take care of themselves because of the expense involved. And I just really feel like it was scuba diving. I mean, I was raised in San Diego, but I remember scuba diving Groupons. Or for relatively you're like, hey, my bucket list is to ride a helicopter. For $100 here in Vegas, you can actually go in a helicopter.
You can.
I mean, and
the thing about it is that yes, you can do private coaching if you've got all the money in the world. You can do group classes, but actually, if you don't, like, you made a good example. You made a good point. And if you want to really be on a budget, community college classes are really good classes, right? They're not very expensive. Or what was that show? Parks and Rec, right? All of the various things that are available from Parks and Recs. You can take a writing class by a writer. Now, is it going to be the greatest training in the world? No, but it'll get you moving in the right direction. It'll give you some structure. It'll give you some format, right? It'll give you a way to get there. And if you can't afford, the community class, and you can't afford private, then talk to your friend, right? One of the best things for me when I now that I'm making new friends, and we'll actually have a show on how to make new friends at 50, right? Is that I have a friend who is into dubstep, into club music, right? And he goes to all these festivals, and I was like, I don't know, but actually they're a lot of fun, right? And so nightclubs and those kinds of things, they're a lot of fun. I was introduced to nightclubs through friends,
right?
All right. And so, if you really want to try something and you can't figure out, or you don't have the resources to learn one of the other ways, right? The call to action is find somebody who has the same interest, find somebody who knows how to do it, and ask them a question. Because most people, when you ask them a question, want to help you.
Right.
Right? Especially if you know them.
Right. So, David, back to you. Looking at anybody who's seen your podcast, or anybody who knows your history and the military background, and the advocacy for mental health, obviously this is very important to you when it comes to another major issue. I think that any man at 50 has some sort of mental health issue that we're dealing with, whether it's, PTSD from violence in law enforcement or military, or whether it's, chemical imbalances. How is it that you're taking these hobbies and these platforms that you've created and applying those to not only help yourself, but help others recognize that it's okay not to be okay sometimes?
So, man, when I started the podcast, the whole idea was when I went through my first real mental breakdown, when I was 30 or 31. I want to say I was like 30, 31. I didn't know what was happening to me. I literally thought I was dying from a tumor, because the symptoms were, so unlike anything I'd ever dealt with. And as time went on, I was discovering that what I was dealing with was anxiety and depression. Still didn't have the root causes figured out, but I was figuring out that, okay, this is a symptom of anxiety. This is a symptom of depression. And I noticed those symptoms would start to go away just by me being aware of what it was. So the podcast, and the book for that matter, was kind of a byproduct of that uncertainty. I want people to know that there are these other things out there that can happen to you that may feel abnormal. It's your body's natural response to abnormal situations. And by hearing someone else talk about it, my hope is it alleviates their stress. Because if somebody just told me, oh yeah, dude, that's anxiety, and I had it like this, I would have been through my breakdown a lot faster. It took me a while to get through all that because I was going to the doctor's office every other day trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And even though the doctors were saying it's anxiety, they were still doing other things that made me second guess it. It wasn't until I found out that specific things happened to me were a byproduct of the anxiety. And it's hard to explain in a way because of what I was dealing with. Like I was getting shooting pains through my face. I was getting vertigo. I was getting a click in my throat. It was just weird, man. Like the 2 a.m. wake ups where I was having panic attacks at 2 a.m. Like I thought I was dying. I made my wife take me to the hospital at 2:30 one morning because I woke up convulsing and it was a panic attack. I wish I could get into what caused that. But I can't right now. And the podcast really is me trying to just show people it's okay. We're all going through this. It's not just you. Just listen to what we're saying and you're going to be okay. As long as you understand it's okay to be fucked up, which is why I let the people on the show talk about such traumatic stuff. I want them to expose that vulnerable moment, so other people can hear it and go, okay, it's not just me. And it's good to hear it from musicians because I think as a normal person, we look up to musicians in a way. Like we listen to music and people cry when they hear songs. Like we look up to these people, and to hear them be a little vulnerable is cathartic. And that's really where I was going with that. I just wanted people to know it's okay. Like we're all fucked up, man. We really are. There's no one in this world that's not in one way or the other. My therapist said it best. Like everyone in life has PTSD to some degree. It's impossible to get through life without it. We've all experienced trauma in some way or another, and
everyone's trauma is different. Everyone's threshold for the ability to handle it's different.
Yes. Some people can handle a lot more. I was able to function with my PTSD for many years until I stopped functioning and was literally on autopilot, not really living anymore. And, I didn't even see that my PTSD was pouring over into my life and it was ruining me. I couldn't go anymore. My therapist has this theory. It's called the garbage can theory. You can only put so much garbage in a can before it starts spilling over and it starts stinking up the place. I was living in a landfill, Right. I wasn't addressing 40 something years of trauma. And it was just getting worse as the years were going on, man. Like I was just adding to it, as the violence increased amongst other issues I was dealing with, it's a pain in the ass, and it has catastrophic effects to the body. I'm in a good place right now, and I hope it stays that way.
Well, and it goes back to show, I know my daughter, when she went through medical school, got to the point where she decided not to go the MD route and went more the PhD in the physical therapy because she wanted to be more of a holistic approach to things. She became not anti-pharma, but realized is like, look, I'm not going to do all this study and run my career and go to have big money tell me what to do and what drugs to push and how to force people to do this. And so she wanted to go into a medical science where she can help people feel good to be able to do what they need to do for self-coping and self-help. And I think that's a lot about, so like now, look at this shit, man. You have a podcast talking to, you're sitting there with Slipknot. Are you shitting me? That's dope. Did you ever think 5 years from now you'd be sitting there talking to Slipknot, right? It's like for me, I've been in radio for a while. I did a morning drive show. But being a new fan to I Prevail and learning their music, I now have this passion for it. It actually calms me down when Eric, the what they call the dirty vocal singer, starts like just getting into it. It actually soothes me. And it's crazy. But what I want to say to that is at the same time, the coolest thing that's happened to me this year is I became part of the fan club or whatever. And the lead singer to I Prevail for my birthday recorded a 2-minute, hey, Bobby, happy birthday. Wanted to say, our birthdays are a couple of weeks off, blah, blah, blah. I really appreciate, following our journey, and basically just made me feel like I was a part of him. Like I was a part of the group. Like I was on that same, and that was huge. What that did for me for the whole week was just, because I was in love with the music because the music spoke to me, and to actually hear the person who had the struggle and wrote the song that got me through that moment. It's something I can't explain.
It's very cool. All right. So writing, music, golf, music, dating, scuba.
For us. That's us.
For us. So here's the thing. What's on your bucket list?
Ooh.
What do you want to try that you haven't tried yet, hobby-wise?
So
regardless of cost or logistics.
Regardless of cost or logistics.
It's actually one of my hobbies is backpacking and mountaineering. I climbed Mount Whitney the year before I moved out of California, and that was a monster of an accomplishment. I got so sick from altitude and low blood sugar because I wasn't eating correctly. My goal is I want to climb Denali.
Well, you're on your own with that one, bud.
Denali. What is Denali?
Mount Denali, so Mount Whitney is the tallest mountain in the lower 48. Mount Denali is the tallest mountain in the U.S. It's in Alaska. I don't remember the exact height. It's a big one, but it's always covered in snow.
In snow.
Wow.
And yeah, so I've never done a major summit in the snow and ice, and I want to do a winter summit.
Dude, that is the ultimate of dare to live.
Yeah, dare to live.
Dare to live.
All right, so you want to do that. Bobby, what about you? What's on your bucket list that something new you want to try that you haven't tried yet?
You know what? And it's interesting because I've had I'm very happy with where I've gone and what I've done in my life,
sure.
Right? And where I want to be is kind of where I'm sitting. Like I want to get back to I like that eclectic mix of talking to people on a daily basis who have experiences different from mine and being able to, this is the sappy where I want to be, but like listening to like David's story, listening to Michael Sartain coming on, listening to the people that we're talking to and being able to grow because I've got a lot of struggles and mental issues and stuff like that going on to where I need to live my best life. As far as like a bucket list of things that I actually,
just one. Something you want to try that you haven't tried before.
That's a good question.
Skydiving?
I don't want to do skydiving. I don't jump out of perfectly good airplanes. You know what? I've done a lot of what I want to do. I mean, I tell you what, my bucket list is I just want to keep growing. I've traveled the world. I've been to some of the nicest ports in the world. I've raised kids. I've done a lot of, I've visited and been able to participate in a lot of the things that I want to do. I mean, at some point now, my goals are, I want to get, like I'd love to get Slipknot for an interview come to that accomplishment. My bucket list would be to get my heroes and people that have so strongly encouraged me and like dream on that couch.
Okay.
I mean, David's one that put a seed in my head and so that's why I appreciate you coming on to one of our earlier shows here to kind of set it up. And I just want to keep progressing. And I just want to feel like I'm accomplished.
I think that's really good. For me, it's sailing. I've never sailed. I've been on a few sailboats with somebody else. I want to learn how to sail. That's my hobby that I want to try.
It's kind of tough to do from Las Vegas.
No, Lake Mead. We have a sailing
club.
Have a sailing club. We have a yacht club.
I mean, I'm just learning. So
Lake Mead, right? But I really want to. So this is 50 Shades of Great, Dare to Live. So we always sort of finish our points with a call to action. So the call to action is tell us what's on your bucket list. Tell us the hobbies that you want to pick up. But we're men, and men are like accomplishment. So you're gonna do the summit and you're gonna come back and tell us about it.
He's gonna do Denali.
And we're going to try to put one or two of your heroes in this chair. And I'm going to go sailing this year.
Outstanding.
Before the year is out.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be that in depth, though, too. And that's the call to action. And so those are our goals. That's what we'll work forward to. And that's going to be that ultimate accomplishment. But we've got to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves in those regular daily hobbies. Like I always joke about people that, I love NFL football. Like it's one of my passions. I love Major League Baseball. Like those are my two. You got to. I've had season tickets to the San Diego, now Los Angeles Chargers for probably 22 years, right? And when I invested in those, and as I've been able to grow in that, is I keep getting better seats. Like I'm in the club level, and that's what's important to me. I tell people that. By
the way, where's the invite?
I'm invited. Well, PowerSerg did bring me to the first Charger Raider game here in Las Vegas, but no, and so I refer to it as sort of my religion, like because during the season, every Sunday I'm at a game. I've got I got the head coach who's the priest or the preacher out there. The only unfortunate part, and I say this kind of half jokingly.
Raiders rule.
I've been a Charger fan my whole life, and it's been so. This is why I'm good with disappointment.
So the unfortunate part is that Raiders rule and Chargers suck.
No, dude, don't get me started on the Raiders.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, don't get me started on the Raiders. Okay, the Raiders. I'm gonna hate just to hate.
That's the home team, baby. That's a home team.
That's your home team. So I'm gonna stick with the Chargers, but it's that whole thing about. I've learned to accept disappointment, and this sounds really stupid, but it actually is true because I've spent thousands upon thousands of dollars on these stupid tickets, but it makes me happy. It makes me feel accomplished. It's my sense of status because I've grown up within the organization. I get to go to the VIP, practices and meet all the players. Derwin James last year took pictures with us, and but I've also learned because it's the Chargers. I take disappointment fairly well, and I'm used to it.
And by the way, that's an important. I mean, learning how to deal with disappointment is a life skill.
Now, if the goddamn Padres can just keep doing,
it's a life skill. I mean, and there's a lot of good things about sports, like hobbies of sports, and traveling to and seeing professional sports games. That's a really,
it does. It keeps us engaged. It keeps us engaged, and it hits that button. So, we have to wrap here. David, I'm going to let you. Can you promote your podcast and the book again, and what website? Where can people go to find you?
Absolutely, man. So you can support my show on YouTube. It's called We Are Mellowmaniacs. I know it's a lot to say, but It was a very, I had a lot of fun coming up with that name. And you can, if you can't find it on YouTube for whatever reason, you can follow the link on my website, which is just my name, davidcurfiss.com. You can go to my books from there. You can get them at Barnes & Noble. You can get them at Amazon. Most bookstores sell them. You just have to go and ask for them. They don't always keep them on stock. So yeah, you can support me that way. The YouTube channel is what I'm really pushing right now, though. I'm really trying to get the mental health awareness out there for everyone. So the more people that subscribe and watch these videos, the better. Because if my video can save one life, I did my job and I will feel accomplished.
We will post, so we'll post links on both our website as well as on our own channels. We'll make sure to promote you, and we'll post links to your socials on our socials so our listeners can find you and can tune in. Because I think it's a valuable one. And here again, there's an example of somebody who, as they're facing 50, right, is doing something new, following his passions, and is daring to live. So hat off to you.
Buy the tickets.
Buy the tickets.
So, all right. Well, David, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you coming on board and sharing your story. We look forward to seeing more of you, and we'll be participating and watching your podcast and watching you grow as we do. PowerSerg, appreciate you putting this together. The focus on these hobbies really, truly is self-help. It really, truly is the ability to take control of our life. We're giving you the hall pass. Find your hobby, embrace it, double down on it, and live your best life. This is 50 Shades of Great, Dare to Live.
The show doesn't stop there. Join the movement
See you next
on
time.
IG, 50 Shades of _great, or go to our website, 50shadesofgreat.com.